Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigor Mortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm Adam from RPX.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy, most pasta. And for this episode, for our 420 Blaze It episode, most dank. Tonight we bring you Munchies. So yeah.
Start this off. You ever had the Munchies?
Yeah, I've had the Munchies.
All right. So for those of people at home who haven't experienced the Munchies, how would you explain that to someone?
Well, you just keep eating. Like you just gotta. It's like a really nasty craving.
Yeah, it's a hunger. Do you have a particular favorite Munchies food?
Honestly, it's Reese's Pieces, like the peanut ones that they come out, and those pretzel, like the ones that have like pretzels inside of them.
Ooh.
Yeah, those have been the ones that I've had like the most, I think.
Pro tip from me: Frosted Flakes.
Ah, nice.
Dry Frosted Flakes.
Now, is it okay for you to be like on the show about talking about marijuana and stuff like that, or talking about being a stoner and stuff?
I'm just a normal person, and you know. So
I'm just worried because like it's legal in my country, but it's a bit more of a bit of contention in yours. So.
Well, maybe I could be like the author of this story who obviously hasn't smoked marijuana in his entire fucking life, but has a reefer madness point of view and like, oh my god.
I love like, okay, yeah, we should kind of go into this, like the rundown before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
So this story was written in a quaint time we like to call 2012. That's when it looks like it was posted, at least on creepypasta.com.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned beforehand, it is Munchies, which is basically the experience you get after intaking of marijuana, THC, and these certain synapses in your brain just start firing, and you get really ravenous. True story, one time I ate a ho-ho with the wrapper. They told me I did that, and I was like, no, I didn't. And then later, when the evidence made itself clear to me, yes, I had ate the wrapper.
Wow. Oh God. Oh God.
The story is really like, you remember pre-legalization days and stuff like that. And yeah, marijuana is quote unquote the gateway drug, which I mean, obviously I've seen it lead people astray. You know, you do one thing and then you do another thing, and you know, but relatively harmless. I mean, it's got its negative side effects, don't get me wrong. It's definitely the combustible side of it and all. And, you know, we are kind of making light of this, but there are, you know, serious issues that abusing any kind of substance could have. So I just would feel comfortable to say that, you know, there are problems. I will acknowledge that there are problems with people who have addictive personalities, which are, spoiler, our guy does here. But at the same time, you know, we're viewing this through the lens. I'm at least viewing this through the lens of, okay, this is somebody in their late teens, early 20s, and well, we'll get into the dialogue. Like whenever stuff starts happening, I'm like, yep, I've seen stuff like this. It looks like I just went to fanfiction.net.
Yeah. See, I've definitely went into this like it's a work of fiction because it's creepypasta, and that's how you should treat a creepypasta, is a work of fiction.
Yeah.
So, it definitely, like, from the start, it's like, my story, I will tell you my story. It's a cautionary tale about the wiles of drug abuse. I wish that my story was as simple as most. I wish that I could tell you that I was arrested for possession, or that I was shot in a failed drug deal. While these types of things are terrible, my story is far worse. I will tell it to you, and then let you decide. That's literally how the story starts.
Yeah. And I literally went to half-baked in the first two sentences of that, where it's like, you know, he's going over drug addiction and stuff, and it's like cautionary tales about the wiles of drug abuse. And we know he's talking about marijuana. I immediately go to Half Baked, Bob Saget. Marijuana is not a drug. I used to suck dick for coke. Now that's an addiction. You ever suck some dick for marijuana? Like that's where my mind immediately went on that. Like that whole scene in like the counseling session that they had.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you got to follow this up. It all started when I was young, somewhere in the age of 15 or 16. And I know most children that age experiment with drugs, mostly marijuana. I was introduced to it by my friend Ted. He came to school one day with a typical red, droopy eyes, giggling about next to nothing. As soon as I saw him, I knew something up. I mean, straight up reefer madness right there.
Yeah, 100%. Just like again, like all of those like satanic panicky sort of like mad or drug skits that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, felt very much like that.
Can I read the next two lines? It's my favorite ones of the whole story.
I didn't really want to read the whole story on air,
No,
but yeah,
no. Trust me, we're going to skip the rest of it. But here's my favorite. This is when I knew I was in for a shitstorm.
Yeah.
Third paragraph. Ted, I whispered sharply, leaning towards his desk. What the fuck is up with you, dude? You don't look right. Oh man, Jake. In parentheses, that's me, by the way. What? No shit, dude. That's where that's a.
Yeah, I almost forgot that Jake was the character in this, like was the actual main character, because I was going to start going to I was going to default to my Nair Ator person. I was like, oh right, no, this story does go into that, and then a lot, and this story was like halfway to doing it right, where they incorporate the narrator's name naturally in dialogue from another person in the story. They were almost there, and then they decided to blow right past that with putting parentheses, that's me, by the way. Like, I get it, like they're trying to be a little funny, or they're trying to give it a little bit more character and attitude, but
that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it. But like, I was being a little bit more. I think I was being a little bit more lenient than you were in the story.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing here, like also the part where it's like, what the fuck is up with you, dude? You don't look right. For some reason, I immediately went to King of the Hill. It's like, that boy ain't right.
God, he had his line. It's like, don't know, dude. I'm so fucking. And then he started giggling like a 2-year-old at a fart joke. I've never seen a 2-year-old giggle at a fart joke, nor understand the complexity of a good fart joke. Maybe they giggled it while making a fart, but it wouldn't have been a joke. I mean,
yeah, like I think the joke part could be removed and just like add a fart, because yeah. At that age, they react to that kind of thing, but not like a joke. About it. Yeah.
So both of you tuning in first time, we're a literary podcast.
Kinda, yeah. We're basically a book club for creepypastas. So
what happens to Jake here, or what happens to Ted and Jake here after this introduction to drugs?
Yeah. So to summarize a little bit, Jake and Ted. Ted is Jake's gateway dealer into marijuana and the ills thereof. And they go down a path of stonerhood for the next 20 years, like all through their college years and into their 30s. And it's not until Ted has a car accident and dies that they aren't together smoking. Now it's just Jake smoking.
Yeah.
And it's been a couple, I think it's he says it's been about a month since it was about a month after Ted's accident that his supply was running low, because Ted was his hookup. Like Ted knew all the ways of how to get the drug.
Yeah.
And then so Jake is walking down the street past past an alleyway of vagrants that is near his house. And there's this older man in among the homeless that has a sign and scrawled on it, "Got weed." And through the story, this old man becomes Jake's hookup because he's got this like amazing deal to get weed. Like he's got the best weed in the entire world, and all that he wants in return is a couple of drops of blood on a piece of paper. Because that won't go wrong at all.
He was cool.
Yeah, he was cool. Yeah, he just had to get 2 drops of blood on a piece of crummy paper from this homeless man, and he would get a massive bag of weed that is like manna from heaven to him.
And I swear when I read that part there too, it was like I started thinking, oh, Dad went down to Georgia. He's looking to buy some weed. He was very dry. He was want to get high.
I had a whole journey. We'll get into it in the actual thoughts. I have a whole journey of like speculation of who this old man is or what this old man is. So yeah, Jake gets the big bag of weed. The old man is like, he's very charismatic when he's like a salesman, like or like a certain roadside demon. And Jake gets this baggie and is told that he can come by anytime when he needs a hookup and to tell his friends and stuff like that. And Jake goes home and starts smoking the weed and is on the high when Ted, as a spirit or as a undead thing, is suddenly appears on his couch next to him and is trying to like warn him or like act like a Virgil to his Dante. Or at least like kind of tries to like give that kind of setup, but then Jake is just like, man, I love you as a brother, but I need you to leave. Like, I don't want this to be a bad trip. Please leave. So he pushes Ghost Ted away, and then Jake continues doing the drugs. Eventually, it's been a couple of weeks and he hasn't seen Ted in a while. And his I think his the bag of stash is getting low. So but then he goes by the vagrant alley again, and there's the old man, and he just hands him another bag of weed. Nothing required. It's like, so this is like the best dealer ever. Nothing's gonna go wrong. Goes home, rinse and repeats, like smokes a bowl, starts getting really hungry, and like runs to his kitchen and just grabs an old bucket of chicken and starts eating it cold, and even the bone, he starts eating it. And that's when Ted appears again to warn him about the old man and about the hunger that he's getting and such. And then Ted just leaves. And then basically every time Jake eats or Jake smokes after that, he gets these incredible munchies, these incredible cravings that he needs to eat. And by the end of the story, we get to this part where he's smoking another bowl. He's got the hunger again, and then Ted shows up again and reminds Jake that old Miss was it McCluskey?
McCluskey, I think.
Yeah, Miss McCluskey. Yeah, old Miss McCluskey or McCluskey from down the hallway gave Jake brownies when he first moved in, and God, those were such amazing brownies. Maybe you should go check. I don't know, just saying, Jake. Maybe you should go down there and see if you can get more of Miss McCluskey's brownies. So Jake goes down the hallway and knocks on the door, and Miss McCluskey is very polite and like inquires as to why Jake's there, and Jake brings up that like he really enjoyed those brownies, and Miss McCluskey happens to have been made a batch of brownies that day, so like invites Jake in for maybe some tea and brownies, and to just have a little bit of a discussion. Like, I guess Miss McCluskey's feeling a little lonely. And opens the door, and Jake politely is like kind of goes in, and it's like, Miss McCluskey, I would be honored to come in and talk to you and have some tea and brownies, but I must tell you, I'm oh so very hungry. And that's how the story ends.
Yeah, which that was good, and there are some merits to this thing here.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's our Reefer Madness story.
Yeah.
So,
So I, Adam, I'm gonna be you've been on the show a couple of times,
yeah.
and I've spared you of the full experience with the Grammar Inquisition, but I had to put that section into this episode.
Oh, that's fine.
So
I,
we're gonna start here with the everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions at this point. Because I've got a handful of things that I want. They might be pet peeves, they might be like nitpicks, but I had to get them off my chest for this. So
well, I used to be an English teacher, as you well know, and that probably affected my ability to enjoy this. As simply, you heard me bitching about him going, Jake. That's me, by the way.
yeah, it's like in like it's almost like in a movie where it's like he suddenly looks at the camera. That's me, by the way. And then like everything else freezes around him. But yeah, so the first thing I got here is like, yeah, he always had the connect, and that's Jake
Oh
talking
yeah,
about Ted and stuff. And I was like, connection, like
yeah.
he always had the connection because that's
It's a verb noun thing, motherfucker.
yeah. The
I
next one
always had to
here,
run.
yeah. The next one here, I live in a small but quite busy city, so cheap as I am, I walk the 3 or 4 blocks to the subway and ride to work. Okay, actually, hang on. I think in context of the story, this might be a past tense, present tense thing, which I always have an issue with in some of these stories. I thought it should be like I thought it was in the
The past. The
past
man's
tense.
reflecting. Yeah,
So it's like and rode to work rather than and ride to work, because when I was reading it, it didn't sound right when it was ride to work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah, it should have been walked and
walked.
and rode
Yeah.
to work. But
Yeah.
yeah, that is jarring as well.
Yeah, and again, like that's just like I've always had. Like that's my axe to grind when it comes to grammar in creepypastas. Is like keep your tense like the same, please. Then we got this one here. At that, he pulled by my arm into the dark, wet precipice that was the alleyway, his office. I think you want. At that, he pulled me by my arm into the dark.
Oh, can we quickly make an addendum there?
Sure.
Really? I asked, grinning to myself. So what's a guy like me got to do to get some good, air quotations? He put good in quotation, but then he has to tell us that it's air quotations as well. I mean, his use of parentheses as like an aside. Like, yeah, you can do it. Like, honestly, review cultures, there's no right or wrong way to pronounce, or well, there is right or wrong way to pronounce things, but I mean, it's just the style is like it's somebody that understands what a form is, but not what the form is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like this story, it is clear for me. I mean, I was going to go into my actual thoughts. It is clear to me that this story is trying to invoke like a personality, or is trying to like evoke a personality for this character.
Yeah,
but yeah, it kind of comes off sometimes as like kind of rough, like. Yeah, like what does the guy have, like me have to get the good? It's like to get that good. It's like, is that a stoner term for marijuana? Am I not in the loop on that?
I may be out of it too, but
like to me, like
think...
I would have gone with like. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Like no, it's like he uses words. Well, obviously he uses words. Like he's using words that sounds like somebody who never that has like I listened to 3 Insane Clown Posse songs and now I know all about it kind of take on it. Like he even does it like with the air quotes here again. He'll like above that where Ted's still alive. Like, fuck yeah, Ted, let's do this after school. Meet me down at the abandoned covered bridge outside town limits. We'll, quotation marks, blaze up and in parentheses, air quotations, as they say.
Yeah, that was definitely. Oh my god. Also, it's so like it's like fuck yeah, Ted. Let's go to this exact very detailed, intricate location. Like
Yeah,
that's a landmark in town on the outskirts of town.
and it's like paragraphs before that, he's like, when he starts talking about drugs, like somehow the prospect of trying drugs excited me. It made me feel rebellious for whatever dumb reason. Cool. Well, I trailed off, becoming unsure of my decision. What kind of shit are we talking about, Ted? Crack, meth, what? So, like, he went from like drugs are bad, okay, to like, well, we got crack, meth, oh, marijuana. Like, it just like there was like there's no in between. There was like you're
Yeah,
off or you're on. Like it's manic.
yeah. Or like, hang on. Where's the line here? I mean, there were so many potheads during the 60s and 70s, and they survived. What could possibly go wrong? It's like you're saying, it's like oh, the drug, like thinking about having drugs or doing drugs would make me made me feel for some dumb reason cool, and then it cuts to that. It's like, yeah, you know what else? Like, you know who else survived during the 60s and 70s? LSD people and
That you
other
were,
like hard drugs. So
I thought you were going to say Jesus, like a youth minister.
I did. The more I was reading like the beginning of the story, it did kind of feel like who's that actor? It's like, hello, fellow kids. Like
Yeah.
the
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi in that skit where he's like trying to like approach kid, like trying to like disguise himself as a kid
Hmm.
or as a young teen.
Hello, fellow teens.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's wearing a wire. Hey, Ted, talk into my collar.
Yeah. Yeah, he's actually working for the school. Although, yeah, like honestly, any teacher who's like not paying attention to Ted's like look and probably mannerisms in class is probably not doing too well. I don't know. Maybe that's an attack on your profession. Sorry.
Saying it's coming at the path of least resistance sometimes. Like, it's just like, maybe you talk to somebody about it, like, but yeah, it's like it's obvious when someone's hot. Now it gets a little harder nowadays, so if
Yeah.
I were in that profession, but it gets a little harder nowadays because everything is like vape and stuff like that. Like I mean, there is combustibles and things like that, but you know, the big thrill is just like the vaping stuff that you do, and like I could be in the other corner of your room vaping it, and you may, for a brief second, catch a hint and stuff like that of a smell, but it really quickly dissipates and stuff like that. So, I mean, obviously, this isn't during that time frame and all that, but it gets
Yeah.
a little harder to catch nowadays. But at the same time, I don't have to smell it to see that you're baked out of your gourd.
Yeah. It's there's definitely some tells.
Yeah.
Um. So going back to the grammar acquisition first.
Hmm. Oh, go ahead.
So again, some of these are going to be nitpicky. I apologize, but
No doubt.
but I don't apologize. um.
Well, you're singing my song.
Yeah. Um. I broke off a small chunk of one bud and dropped in Bertha's empty bowl.
Mm.
Okay. The chunk of one bud aside, um, I would contest that it should be like and dropped it in Bertha's empty bowl. Just dropped in Bertha's bowl. Just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, it's. I would like to have all the drug units, please, Curzon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you have two, more than two drug units, then you'll die.
You can learn a lot about measurements and stuff like that when you're dealing with this, like an ounce, a quarter ounce, a dime bag. I mean, like there's so much words that like descriptions that he could have used that would have gave it a bit more of a sense of realism, other than
A small chunk of one bud.
that's my like, in Big Bertha. I mean, again, let's go back to Half Baked. Like they had Billy Bob Thornton and Wesley Pipes. Like,
I full disclosure, I've never actually watched that.
oh my
I,
God.
I've seen bits and pieces through like cultural osmosis, but that's about it.
Mhm.
Um, The next thing we have here is, and with that, I put the pedal to the metal and went for a ride. Pedal is spelled wrong.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
It's the petal of a flower, not in the story. It's Petal, not Pedal, which is what it should be.
Maybe he's a lotus eater.
Yeah, that's true.
That was in Odysseus. I mean, maybe it's a callback to like other great Greek stories.
Yeah, the lotus eaters. Yeah. The next one we have here. I stormed my kitchen like a madman for blood. You could use that. That could be fine technically, but I think it would also work if it was like I stormed into my kitchen like a madman for blood. So
it sounds like a literal like assault.
Yeah, like assault on kitchen 14.
Like you're storming the Bastille. Like the kitchen's like its actual landmark.
Yeah. And then I think this is the last one that I either cared to find or that I actually found that I noticed anyway. Is this time the hunger was unbearable. Okay, so this one, it's hard to say like what's wrong here, but so aside from like them using like capital U capital N dash bearable, bearable is actually the wrong wording for it, or the wrong spelling for that for what he's trying to say. It's in the story. It's Bareable. It should be bear as in the animal bearable. So, and I know that because I did actually want to confirm. I actually had to Google that to make sure that is the right one, right? Like it's unbearable with like the animal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but that's my grammar position, like that, and that's just like me going through the story and like doing basically a round of editing. So Adam, do you have anything extra to add to the Grammar Inquisition? I hand you the torch and the pitchfork.
No, I honestly glance over all that stuff. I did pick up on verb tenses and stuff like that, and it irritated me. My complaints were like the structural like things. Like for starters, the misuse of parentheses, that was pretty horrible. Other things that I can think. My big hang up is on the crunchy pasta. Goddamn, a creepy pasta website. Like I don't.
All the ads.
Yeah, well, it just mine. Apparently, my ad blocker, it's like not adding the ads, but it like puts advertisements. So I'm sitting here reading. Like for example, I'm looking at one section right now. What a fucking ride indeed. I had only taken 2 gigantic hits before it got intense. Advertisements in text. It just spells out advertisements. And then as I sit there coughing up a lung, metaphorically speaking, of course. Well, no, like.
God damn it! I forgot about that. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, parentheses shit again. I mean, I'm picking up on that stuff. I'm like, ooh, metaphorically, or allegorically, or like, no shit, sir. Like, it would have been a better story.
At least it wasn't literally.
I was hoping that it was eventually going to be that. I hope that he was going to be like coughing up his lungs, literally.
Yeah.
Other batch of pot.
Oh God.
Everything got all bright. Quick question for you. This is a side. All right, so we're both basically from 2 different countries. One country which has seen the light of the, I mean, hey, this is like people are going to do it. Might as well monetize it and put it in a controlled way. And then, like, I live in a country that 18 or 20 states have kind of went that way. And then everybody else is like, Jeebus. And they won't take it. So, okay, so did you have any kind of, like, in the 80s growing up when I did you have any kind of like drug programs in school?
So growing up in the 90s, sorry, Adam.
No, I know. I'm saying I'm in the 80s. You're in the 90s.
Okay, yeah. We had MAD, and
Mothers Against Drunk Driving?
Is it MAD or was it? There was another one.
It could have been MAD up in Canada. We just had Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
I gotta pull it up. Hang on, I'm gonna quickly Google it because I give me a second.
In America, we had DARE, DARE,
yes.
Drug Abuse Resistance Education. Did you have DARE?
We had a Canadian version of DARE. I do recall like having to go into the gymnasium several times during elementary school and then high school, and having a an anti-drug like DARE program pop up, like kind of like presentation sort of thing. And it included like alcohol and stuff, but it also included like drug use and such. But yeah,
I'm just
I do
curious if
remember
that
DARE.
was
That
okay.
I was getting mad mixed up with DARE in that case. So sorry about that.
No, it's fine. And I'm sorry for the aside. This is like the entire time I was reading. It's like they had this stupid shit. Like we had a war on drugs. Well, guess who won? It wasn't us.
Yeah.
But so yeah, back to the topic at hand. A for effort. Like he wrote or he or she wrote something.
We didn't actually address the name. The author is, according at least credited on creepypasta.com, it is Jeremiah Brown. Whether or not that's their actual name or it's just like a name that they've given themselves on the online, but like yeah.
Jeremiah, kudos for you for writing something that creepypasta.com said would take me 11 minutes to read.
Yeah, you gotta love those like estimated time for reading.
I screamed and jumped. It's just like different things like throughout the course of this as I kind of glanced through it. So
yeah, I've got a couple of things. So I guess we're done the grammar inquisition. We'll move on to the actual plots.
Oh, he loves ... By the way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He puts it in dialogue, and then like at times he doesn't. Like there's a second like talking about the old man. Then he cackled and slapped his leg as if he just told the funniest joke known to man, probably about a fart and a baby. Thinking back now, I guess he had ...
Yeah, there's I'm looking at in one paragraph there are 3 or 4 instances where there are just like mega ellipses, like ... or like the person like didn't know how many dots you need to do, and you just have to do 3. You don't have to do like 4 or 7.
Yeah, and pretty much the rules for ellipses are, you use it to omit information at the beginning or the end of quotes. That wasn't that. You use ellipses to indicate omission at the beginning within.
Okay, this is interesting because like you're laying down the as a like for having a creative writing kind of background. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've always thought that like ... like the ellipses was used to like as a way of like giving a pause at the end of something. Like somebody's like about to say something, and then they do ... as like they're pausing before they're going to continue. Is that not a case then? In like, is that not a use of ellipses?
Yeah, no, you're correct, but that's in the use of dialogue.
Okay.
Like that's the part that I was kind of pointing out there is it wasn't dialogue unless you count the actual narrative form as it is from this man being.
That's always dialogue. That's always kind of the pitfall, right? Of like writing is like. Because a lot of times, like you see, especially in creepypastas, the story is being written in the first person, but it is not always necessarily a dialogue. Like they are telling, like it's sort of that thing where like they are. It's as if they are telling somebody a cautionary. Like in this story specifically, they're telling like a cautionary tale. They're telling their tale of how they got so high that they became a monster, or they got like how they got duped into taking these really bad drugs. But so I could see somebody falling into the thing of like, oh, well, that's like, I'm telling the story. So I'm the character telling the stuff, but like you also you're also telling a story in a format that is like semi-formal. So
it's the equivalent of this would be if you were writing a research paper on drug abuse and then you were like, you could be abusing actual quotations. So you could actually, I mean, you can quote anything and you could do small quotations. You could do like block quotations. But anyway, your quotations got to pertain to stuff. And it's just, this shoddy use of it just makes me, not like it's eating up a lot of page space or anything, but it just looks like somebody who is like not familiar enough with the rules. Like, it's like if they were to use that quoting analogy, like they're quoting other stuff into it that doesn't really pertain to it, but at least it's adding to the length kind of thing. So it's a very loose understanding of the rules and structures, and not knocking anyone. Like there are entire degrees look, I taught English. These are things that at least my experience with American public school systems, nobody tackles like at least in the state that I'm in, nobody really tackles officially in high school level stuff like grammar at all. Like a lot of the big requirements are on literature, and you're going through your like what's canonized and things like that. So we all, and even at the collegiate level here, we all expect everyone to like have all this stuff, but there's no room in at least our standards that we teach to actually go into it and all. So, like, honestly, I would say the bulk of people that are writing this stuff, if they're American and all that, they're probably writing off of a middle school level English understanding. Or
That is kind of horrifying because, like, to hear that, like, just a little bit, because, like, I mean, as far as I was aware, like with my schooling and stuff like that, like they really hammered on like grammar and stuff.
yeah, now like if you
Huh.
you tie it in with stuff. So if you were writing a short story, if you were doing a research paper and stuff like that, that's when I'm going to go through with my red ink pen and make it bleed and mark it, and then like, okay, here's what you should do correctly, here's what you do correctly. But we've turned into, and I'm sorry to turn your podcast into a critique of American public education system, but we have turned it into our job is to turn out little test takers, and nobody really. You are fortunate if you get exposure to it elsewhere. Like my basics of like my understanding of grammar and writing structures and so forth really solidified. I came in at a time when writing was a very large part in Kentucky, which is the state I live in. But yeah, I had to learn everything in college, really, and on my own, like writing and doing it, just like building the ship as I flew it and things like that. So that may be some big differences here, which would explain why, like, one of the constant complaints over here in the States is whenever we turn out high school graduates or college graduates is that they can't write a fucking sentence because we're too busy teaching literary devices and so forth and so on.
Huh. Okay. Wow.
Now you can use a little star as it crescents, like the more you know, kind of thing.
The more you know. Yeah.
Like I'll talk to you later about the ACT.
Oh God. Okay. Back to the silly creepypasta.
Sorry.
It's cool. It's fine. It's just I'm well, and I'm not 100% sure. Like I have sort of, it's been a hot minute since I was in school myself, so it's like I can't recall properly like if the Canadian education system is. I feel like it might be better from what you're telling me.
Yeah.
But
doubt it.
I don't want to like I don't want to like 100% that, because I might be wrong. I might be like over romanticizing my own upbringing. So
no, and I'm
yeah.
also coming from in the 50 states. We're in the 40s or like upper 30s and stuff like that. So there are other areas, and then there's also, you consider poverty levels and the wealth in areas, and that kind of makes a difference. But in all honesty, just kind of put a bow on this particular topic right here. Like, even though like I'm critiquing this function and stuff like that, I acknowledge, I mean, not the function, but their performance here. I'm acknowledging that I'm assuming that they have a high school education or they're going through high school right now. And I think it's amazing and awesome that the muse spoke to them through a Reefer Madness, American Werewolf in Paris or London.
Yeah,
like,
thank you. I was full disclosure, that's at the end of my actual thoughts notes.
I'm so glad
I had that. I was like I was getting some weird vibes, like mixed vibes of like different like culture, like pop cultural like references into the story.
Yeah.
One of which was American Werewolf in London. Maybe not so much Paris. Like the Paris one's basically just a copy of the first movie, but
without the ghost. I don't think there's a ghost.
Honestly,
in it.
Oh, there is a ghost. Like they definitely do that in Paris and in London.
Okay.
So, but yeah, no, the whole, and I think that's honestly where it is like it's the dead friend coming back to try and help his buddy, and even by the end of the story, I was like, is this like, did he just like get reefer werewolf? Like, are we just getting like going
Yeah.
like where like the reefer wolf?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like
It's
if like because like is this where we're like, because it's either cannibal or werewolf is where is where the story is kind of leading by the end of the story.
I guess this is a
Um,
great opportunity for us to talk about the old man, because this
okay,
is
yeah,
the gem of this whole deal. Like I made the joke a moment ago about like they went down to Georgia. He's looking to make a deal, and it's like doing the Faustian like blood kind of thing
yeah.
like that. But so I would love for you to take this over here and tell me your thoughts, because I know where your mind goes, and I'm sure it's going to be beautiful.
Well, let me do that crazy conspiracy board from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Because like so this is the first thing I got, like the first quote I have here. Um, on the way to the subway station, about a half block from my crummy little studio apartment, is an alleyway. This particular alleyway is always crowded with vagrants, and it keeps going on about the homeless people that are in this alleyway, and then like that's how we get introduced to the old man and stuff. I was like, could it be? Is this also going to be a hobo creepypasta on top of a drug creepypasta? And it just like it all comes full circle, Adam. Like, because when we first met, like we decided on a creepypasta about homeless about about a uh like a homeless man, right? Like, wasn't that
Yeah,
like we were talking about Hobovember like way back when? It's just like it all comes full circle when we we do our 420 episode.
it's
um
beautiful.
and then I went down a journey on speculation during the story of the as to the nature of the old man, who is offering the drugs to this to Jake, um, in such a strange manner. So it's like he barked. He barked laughter at this. He cleared his throat. Heads, always making me laugh with your nonsensical names for stuff. And to that I'm just like, alien.
Yeah.
And then we get and then we get a little bit like after we get this. Just prick your finger and drop a couple of drops of your life's blood on this here paper, and you got all that you could ever want. And to that, I'm just like, scratch that, demon. And then it keeps going to this quote here, like a little bit farther down the story. That night, on my walk home from work, the bag on my mind, I saw the old man again. This time, however, he looked younger, less haggard, more feral. Maybe a warlock? Warlock? Like a pact was clearly made between Jake and this old man, and now the guy looks younger, like and like is like a little bit more groomed and stuff like that, or like looking better off,
Yeah.
and Jake is looking less off. So like there's like a Dorian Gray or like a lich kind of thing going, or maybe vampire. I had so many different like ideas like fluctuating. I'm like, what is this guy?
He's eating for him.
Yeah, legitimately, like yeah, he's like it. There's definitely a transfer of life force going on, or like of like maybe even of karma or something going on between him and Jake because of the pact that they've made. Like he could even be a creature of Fae.
Could you,
um,
do you see like this perverted sacrament thing going on with this as well?
a
So
little bit, yeah.
like the blood of the blood of the vine, the blood of Christ, kind of a deal going on there. So like he's partaking of his own, like if his blood made the weed or something like that, like he's partaking of his own. But it's also like there's this whole the body thing, and at the end of it is like he even eats the body. It's kind of implied that he's just gonna like cannibalize the
The
sweet old
the
Mr.
woman, yeah,
Kowalski. Yeah.
yeah.
It's just I don't know. I think I'm giving it way too much credit at that point, but I like that it's a happy accident, much like my little brother, and I like that. Hey, I doubt he's going to listen to this. He don't even listen to my podcast. We're safe.
Okay. It comes up a couple of times, man.
Oh, it's kind of my gimmick. I always say it. Even wherever I'm at, I always tell everybody my brother was an accident.
Wow. All right, so yeah, like you were saying, like with you and like your like kind of happy accident on this story of and kind of finding like this whole like element like, of speculation, because it is clear speculation, because the story doesn't really kind of give us a clear insight as to like what's going on, aside from like it's giving us hints and vagaries, like for, and even an open-ended ending as to what happens to Jake and Miss McCloskey and such. Which part kind of bugged me initially, but getting to that in a second. The thing that I kind of found was from this quote here, it actually sort of like was the something that I really enjoyed about this story in terms of like the characterization. So me being a man completely devoid of any kind of religious pretenses, I didn't hesitate. So all I gotta do is drop a little blood on that old ass piece of dust you call paper, and I get some good shit. Yep, best shit that you'll ever see, and as much as you could ever want. Ha! Shit, sign me up, old man. And with that, my fate was sealed. Okay, we've been making fun of the way people talk in this story, like earlier on, especially like when they were kids and stuff like that, and then like the stoner lingo that I do in parentheses.
Yeah.
I do in quotations the stoner lingo and such. But I gotta say, also, while I was reading the story, I did find myself enjoying the characterization of Jake and even the old man. Like the
Yeah.
old man is very like very charismatic as a villain, or as a as maybe yeah, kind of as a villain, because like he's sort of, again, the story kind of implies that he's a villain. They don't straight up say it.
Yeah.
And I kind of dig that for this story, like. And another thing, like going to we were talking like about like how the ending, it's like a nice little like McCloskey, I would be honored, but I must tell you, I'm oh so very hungry, and then like that's where the story ends. At first I was like, wait, that's it?
Hmm.
And like I understand where they're going, like they're leaving it open-ended to insinuate that Jake probably killed or ate Miss McCloskey, and like that was the zinger at the end of the story.
And it's actually Betty White gives him a Snickers bar, and
God
then
damn
he
it.
comes to his senses. There, the werewolf thing that you have going on with this man though too. Like the Ted is trying to dissuade him, and Jake just keeps like turning him away. Which me looking for inspiration and all that. I was even like, was this like a Doubting Thomas kind of thing? But like I also wondered, like every time you saw him, he was in a more desiccated state, more and
Yeah,
on. But yet the old man keeps getting more and more, and he even warns him about the old man. And then at the very final like bit where he's given in to his addiction, in air quotes, parentheses, quotation mark, curly brackets. Um, it's like he's enabling him at that point in time. So that I found that part kind of interesting. That shift, like
yeah,
Jake was almost, or Ted, excuse me, was Jake's conscious, so to speak, in that, and then by the end of it, he was just another instrument of the old man.
yeah. It's almost like we're getting like we're not seeing the entire story. Like we're not getting all the insight of what's going on, like in the behind the scenes. Like where's Ted going when he gets um uh rebuked, or like denied, or like is told to leave by Jake? Like is he going back to the old man, and is the old man like using Ted's soul to further push Jake down the path of this like sacrifice, basically, or this
Yeah,
transfer of energy, or life force, or whatever. Another idea that kind of came to me, and it's a little bit of a stretch. What if there was no Ted to begin with, like in terms of uh like a person? Like what if Ted was always like just in Jake's head, and like
yeah,
and Jake just like Jake's the one that took the drugs and stuff initially, like by himself, but he had like this like imaginary friend that he would take and stuff. So like, and then further in the story, like when when Jake, yeah, like you were saying, Jake, like Ted is kind of Jake's conscious, like conscience. Like it's trying to help him initially, but then as Jake keeps going down this path, it sort of Ted turns on him. He kind of just like, well, maybe you should go check out those those brownies were good from Miss McCloskey. Just saying, and then he vanishes. Like you were saying, he does kind of just vanish. Like he just kind of he doesn't he says he's going to warn Jake about shit about Mister about the old man, but then like just bows out or is like politely walks away after he's told to leave.
It's a beautiful kind of you can make a beautiful correlation to the fact of like this is like the addiction part of it. I think the author is really hitting it. It's in the beginning there's trepidation.
Yeah.
It's shown through Ted of him doing that and whatnot, but as an addiction, which you can't really physically become dependent on weed, it's more of a psychological. It's kind of like how I would like pop or something like that, but as he further indulges, his inhibitions just like wither away.
Yeah, that would be. I
think I like that.
Yeah, and I think like pulling the I think the idea that like Ted, I do like the idea that you're proposing that like Ted's ghost, because that's kind of what he is in this. Mm-hmm. Is just like his consciousness that's slowly kind of like dying the farther he goes along. Like, or it's like he's decaying more and more. Or he's becoming, or he's changing his mood the more and more as he goes along. I think I like how that happens over the course of the tail end of the story.
Yeah.
And it could either be like, again, it's have something to do with the old man, or it's just part of the process of like of Jake like just imbibing this this marijuana like constantly. Yeah. So, just as an aside, also, I kind of like got, so we would talk about like, again, pulp culture kind of touchstones in the story, like the American Werewolf in London, and what was the marijuana, Half Baked that you're bringing up earlier. I also kind of got Evil Bong vibes from this. I don't know if you've ever seen those movies.
I know that they exist. Of course, Big Bertha, which was so creative and all. But isn't there a section of it where he's even kind of rationalizing his use of Big Bertha? It's like Big Bertha was something that him and Jake used, or they made the bong together, or Jake made it.
Yeah.
Ted made it, and then no, she belongs to you.
Yeah, because Ted. Yeah, so yeah, Ted. Like Big Bertha ended up at Jake's house because Ted got so stoned that he forgot where his address was or something like that one time, and Bertha just always stayed at Jake's from that point on. And actually, I have the quote here. From that point on, Bertha had stayed with me. Ted said something along the lines of, "It's cool, man. We made her what she is together. She just chose you in the end. It's totally cool." Kind of like some kind of like weird Frankenstein girlfriend or something.
Yeah, it was.
And yeah,
it was weird.
I kind of in that vein, I kind of almost got like Bride of Reanimator to a slight degree. Just like thinking about it now, but maybe that's just like me overthinking it.
Things that one could do to improve this. I really would love to see Big Bertha changing as well as it starts out as a normal bong and then it starts looking like a H.R. Geiger kind of device at the end.
Well, you actually so kind of going back to what I started saying, then we kind of going on a tangent about the ending. Like I like how it ends the way it is. However, there is a part of me that wishes there was a little bit more, because like, yeah, it ends on that really cool zinger, but like, what the hell happened here? like I thought this was a cautionary tale. Like, what's the cautionary tale here? Like, you're really hungry, and then you went into Miss McCloskey's home and had like brownies and food, brownies and tea and some of that, and was maybe a little bit aggressive, but everything was fine out. Or like what the darker tone, which is what it's insinuating, is that like he ate or killed Miss Clousey for her brownies or for her flesh. But I kind of wish there had been a little bit more afterward about like the aftermath, and maybe like even Jake trying to like find out what the hell's up with this man, the old man, and like what's become of him.
There's this Dagon kind of feel to it by H.P. Lovecraft. It's like, oh no,
Yeah.
they're trying to break into my room. There's a window. I will leap below. I see the and like, well, who the fuck's telling this story? Like, you know what I mean? It's a very disjointed narration. You expect the narrator to be like at least in some control of their faculties, and they kind of abandon that completely and go for the flowery.
And the bong was me. Like the campfire ending, like that's honestly what it reminds me of, is like, yeah, the Dagon story where like, and I can hear it clearly, I'm gonna jump out the window now. or like the zinger that you always tell at the end of a campfire story where it's like, and the killer is me, and like you like, or you have a friend out in the bush like with a hockey mask on, to jump out at the right time of the story. But like at the beginning of the story, it was like you want to know my story? Here's my story, and then like and by the end you can decide whether like about its contents or not, and then it like goes through and some of that, and then it just ends with this zinger. It's like, okay, so you just told a spooky story about how you apparently like what happened to you and the old woman. Like, did you eat the old woman? Like, is that why you're is that the worse fate than like, being like shot in a drug deal gone wrong or some of that?
Yeah.
Like it felt a little bit incomplete at the end, even though I do kind of like the ending where of the ending zinger, but it still felt a little like incomplete to me. But yeah.
Oh God, it's not horrible. Like, yeah, I mean the story's not horrible, but it's just the abandonment of the form there. And I mean, I don't know. For some reason, I always kind of compare stuff like those kind of narratives in general to the best that I've ever seen this address was like in The Fallen. You've seen that movie surely with John Goodman and Denzel Washington.
No.
It's almost like oh my God. Well,
I'm sorry.
that to. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, but that's okay.
That's even worse.
It's almost like Shocker, if you've seen that old Wes Craven film.
I've heard of it.
Oh,
I'm
about evil ball.
Yeah, I'm dropping the ball on like horror stuff too, because like I'm aware of Shocker. I know what the basic plot I think is, but like, yeah, I've never seen it. I'm sorry.
Guys, Review Cultists and I have been friends for several years, folks, and this podcast brought us together, and it's great. I love sharing these stories, and I've treasured his friendship. He's mentioned all kinds of movies he's watched, like a crazy one about a bunch of Norwegians fighting Santa Clauses or shit like that. But he hasn't seen Shocker or The Fallen.
I am adding it to the list right now of movies I need to watch.
Oh God, I won't crack on him too much, but yeah, I'll kind of drop that line of thought. But yeah, it's there's an explanation of like why your narrator's still doing what your narrator's doing, kind of thing like that.
And like it feels like the story, like again, just keep hammering at the conclusiveness, or like not the conclusive. It felt like the story was trying to like tell a moral to the story of like, because like that's like honestly like that's what it felt like through and through. Like even with the like kind of like cheesy like anti-drug like kind of skit attitude it had at the beginning, to the point where it started going more of like a like Devil at the Intersection or like Devil at the Crossroads sort of, or like Monkey's Paw sort of thing that was going on. It felt like it was trying to tell some kind of like an anti-drug moral of the story, and it does kind of get there a little bit, but like, yeah, the ending for me, I feel like it needed a little bit more to like kind of even like a few words to sort of like maybe just kind of like tell us like why, like or hint at the aftermath a little bit more as to like his encounter with Miss McCloskey and why he's on the run from the cops now because of the incident with Miss McCloskey, the brownie incident, maybe. Yeah. So I feel like there could be a little bit more at the end to kind of like refine it a little bit more.
Yeah,
but
I think there's definitely a potential here.
All right. Well, and now for the segment everybody's been waiting for when it's an Adam and Cultist show is the kitchen segment where we try to see what we can cook up with the ingredients of this story.
I am very hungry.
Yeah, I know. I've got the munchies myself. Oh man, I'm so sorry.
So, first off, I know what you're going to say. Yes, fear itself.
Damn it, you beat me to it.
No, but I just want to acknowledge that I was thinking the same thing. But you take the reins here. I just want to let you know that I'm in the car with you.
It's right there. Like you play as a bunch of junkies, and you go past an alleyway where there's a bunch of vagrants, and like it's really low hanging fruit, honestly. Like the old man is a perfect like. There's actually a monster in Fear itself that is this character. It's the Ovrashi. Mm-hmm. Like they appear as a vagrant, as a homeless person, and they have a bag of goodies, and they steal your soul, or they consume souls, or something along those lines in exchange. So yeah, you could just kind of like take the Ovrashi stats from Fear itself and like maybe tweak them a little bit or flavor them a little bit differently. If you want this to be more like a Dorian Gray, like a psychic vampire or literal vampire.
Yeah.
Because like maybe heck, to pull away from Fear itself, but stay in the Gumshoe RPG system. Night's Black Agents, and this is an actual vampire who is siphoning the blood or life force with these blood packs it's making with stoners.
Like that.
Like it's getting high on them as much as they are getting high on the supply that it is providing them.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's it. Like maybe it's not even like it doesn't even feed on them. It's not actually feeding on them. It's just getting high off of them. Like that. Like that's its supernatural drug, or its drug is people.
Mm-hmm.
That I would and your characters are like people who are trying to like track down what's going on, either like your either your client or like a friend of yours is like gone down a bad road, because in Night's Black Agents you're usually playing like agents or people with certain skills and stuff like that, so maybe, or even criminals, so like maybe one of your like cohorts or contacts who's always kind of a druggie, he's like gone missing or died in a very mysterious way, and so now you're hunting you're basically got a vendetta against whoever geeked him, and now oops, the vampire conspiramid's here.
Yeah.
And it's just basically a vampire drug ring that they've been running on, but they're basically trading in like these supernaturally laced drugs with the blood pack whole situation. And the drug ring is actually for the supernatural entities that are getting high on the human supply.
Yeah. I like that. I really do. I mean, I think turning it into a vampire is a really cool thing. I hadn't went down that way. I kind of went for the kind of low hanging fruit. I wouldn't say low hanging fruit, but the obvious choice of Fear itself. And I was kind of thinking two different things. We could play up the story of the old man making the deal and kind of working out the demonic part of it. And all, and you could include him or not in this version of this, but I would really like the whole thing be framed around a rehab. So either
Yeah.
not like a clinic, but like you're out going to AA meetings, and then your characters, because you don't want them necessarily getting hooked on it and all that, but the people that they have their weekly meetings with and stuff like that, start falling into it, or they kind of learn about this beforehand, and maybe one of their own that's an NPC gets killed, and then looking into the drug, and then they encounter the old man. And if I say that once you kind of go too far gone into the drug, and you lose control to the hunger and all that, you could even be like a thrall of some sort to this vampire or this creature or something like that that does its bidding. So there's your things that you got to kind of work your way through, and you encounter people that you've met at the meetings, and other people that you've met in these circles. Like, I mean, this could be like this whole big sanity blasting kind of experience that your
Yeah.
characters go through.
Oh God, I just had this. Sorry, I had a slight idea. What if the old man is actually a Renfield for the actual entity? This like plant-based entity that like that's where the weed comes from. It's like basically a vampire. Oh my God, I can't. It's a Vanibus. That sounded better in my head. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's basically like a it's like a vampire vine, or like it's basically like some kind of a supernatural plant monster that is using the old man as a proxy, and giving him life. The more people he gives like the drugs to, like the marijuana to, but the marijuana stems from the creature itself, and the pieces of paper that have the blood on it are basically like again, kind of going back to my idea of like the vampires, like well, it uses the piece of paper, like the blood that's on the paper, or maybe the paper looks like paper, but it's actually like almost like a naturally pulped piece of parchment from like using hemp, or using like pulp from the plant matter of the creature itself as well. And so then by like giving it back to the creature, it's then the blood is incorporated into them. So now it has kind of a link to those people that it can like use to like influence them, or siphon its whatever it gets out of people. And the old man is looking like when you encounter the old man later, he's looking better off and stuff like that, because the creature is giving him boons for just helping distribute the network of drugs.
Yeah. I like the idea of the vampire being a tapeworm.
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
you start, it's a gateway. So, I mean, in the beginning, you're not going to start feasting on the flesh of people and drinking their blood and things like that. You're just kind of, leading them up to that part. But I mean, make it a full fucking fledged like vampire that you got, and then when you get them hooked so far into this that where they will do your bidding and all that, then you can kind of go to the real entree.
Yeah.
And then whatever you ingest, he ingests.
Oh, I see what you're going. Yeah, like he can't like yeah, like he can't imbibe food, or like can't imbibe certain things, or like he can't imbibe nourishment except through proxies.
Mm-hmm.
That is creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Like that is like a tapeworm, and like even just like a parasitic life form. And
Not
then so
even
like these
making.
people, and they're becoming like they have the munchies. They have this like horrible like hunger and craving, but they're not getting any nourishment themselves from any of it. Like they are wasting away, while the creature gets fat and plump in its lair wherever it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like a thinner by Stephen King, but there's something receiving it. It's like, I mean, they're just going to waste away
Yeah.
over and over. It definitely, if they don't give in to the hunger.
And then
so,
we could have that as a Delta Green game.
Yeah.
Where Delta Green is finding a bunch of homeless people, or like vagrants, or like or stoners, or drug addicts, like finding their bodies just wasted away, and just like in like ditches and stuff like that, like all across like a state.
Yeah.
And
Like,
they're basically trying to hunt down the what's like where are these guys getting their supply, where like, these guys are all all these corpses are connected in that they had a certain supplier, but now then you're tracking down the supplier, and then some kind of a gunfight's obviously going to ensue from that, because it's Delta Green.
yeah.
And maybe even like the supplier, he's got an entourage of vagrants that will of cultists that will like that haven't been enthralled by him because like he's giving them things like that they need to like live and stuff like that, so they feel indebted to him or loyal to him. And so like now, so like again, there's the like the initial conflict is like when they finally track down the dealer, then they have to deal with this fucking cult or entourage of mad cultists that are just poor people that were down on their luck, and this asshole manipulated them with kindness or with generosity.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the dealer, that's when you get to the sandblasting truce, because like that's where you get the clues to go to the actual source of the supernatural drug, which is the giant monster, wherever it is, or whatever kind of thing it is. Like it could be like like one of those it's that like disciples of the worm in Call of Cthulhu mythos or in the Delta Green mythos. It's like people that put a larval creature inside of them, and it hurts them, but it makes them immortal or like nigh immortal.
Yeah.
So it could be like this giant kind of like worm creature from another reality, or it could be something that's just always been here down in the depths or the bowels of the earth. It could be Shub-Niggurath herself. Like again, she's got tons of ties to plant matter and like fecund nature and life. So
yeah,
you could it could also just be a Delta Green scenario where you're dealing with a cult of Shub-Niggurath.
Yeah. Just push and you go back to that alleyway where the vagrant is, and you push a dumpster aside or move some things around.
Okay.
And then there's an old desiccated building, and you're basically going into the lair of the worm itself.
Yeah, that, or we take it a different. Sorry, not to like
no,
that, but an idea I that just came to mind when you were bringing up the alleyway. It's like the dark alleyway. What comes to mind for me with that is Pickman's model.
Yeah.
And ghouls, and the Dreamlands. So like the vagrants, like in and among the vagrants of this dark alley, this specific alleyway, like we make this alleyway an actual like a location of import. And in deeper within, like beyond the vagrants that live there, because they maybe it has like a coziness to it, or it has something that gives like protects them from like the elements and such. Well, deeper beyond that, deeper in this dark alleyway, that where you push the dumpster aside, and there is a burrowed hole, and where ghouls are coming out from the Dreamlands. And so this drug is actually a Dreamlands drug that the ghouls are again, we got a drug trafficking situation, but it's ghouls in the Dreamlands, like basically trading these drugs for like maybe the drug it's either like a way of like creating more ghouls. Like then we got like the bodies that are desiccated or like dying or like are turning up, they go missing from the morgues because they're suddenly metamorphosizing back into full-fledged ghouls.
Yeah. Let's rewind back to
sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I got lost in that dark alleyway.
No. I honestly like that. If you didn't want to make it a vampire, maybe the ghouls have a way to eat that doesn't involve them actually eating, kind of playing with the tapeworm kind of mentality. And because they're like, for those of you unfamiliar with Delta Green lore and all that, there's kind of two schools of thoughts for ghouls. Like they're the traditional ones that only eat the dead and all that, and then there's like a different sect of them that aren't adverse to eating fresh kills and stuff like that. And you just got like a whole bunch of those second ones right there that have just found an easy way to do it, and are just kind of reaching out from the sewers, the subways, the Dreamlands, whatever, to these people to become their mouths. And then like there's no risk or anything, and it's a perfect crime. Like they're getting fresh meat and all that, and then when that person's gone, there's always people that are
also sorry.
Okay, add to it. Let's add it to it. Gordian knot. I'm all about it.
I just had this horrible thought. This is a new cult of the bloody tongue of Nyarlathotep, the old man is Nyarlathotep, and he's using the people, like, we're sticking. I'm gonna stick with the people are these things' mouths. These people are giving upon their nourishment and like their existence onto the bloody tongue, the
Yeah.
avatar of Nyarlathotep,
Mm-hmm.
for for some kind of like sacrifice so that he can be born again. Or that he can rise again.
Yeah.
Like, but he needs. This is all just one big intricate ritual by distributing this drug and making everybody who imbibes the drug or smokes the weed and turning them into these munchy craved mouths, or they are enthralled into this ritual. They basically just add an extra. They're an extra candle in the ritual circle to summon Nyarlathotep upon the world.
Yeah.
That is, I like the whole idea of like the bloody tongue, like that motif in a lot of the mythos when it comes to like Nyarlathotep, and like the whole idea of like you're like the tapeworm thing also kind of gives me, because again, like Nyarlathotep, like in that form, kind of has that kind of a wormy looking, like slimy, wormy and like tendril sort of look to him.
Yeah.
And I can just imagine like, yeah, like that. It's all, again, each stoner that's afflicted by this is just another battery to charge up this profane ritual to summon Nyarlathotep through hunger, basically.
Yeah. Oh man, well we've hit gold on this. I tell you, my last contribution to this would be to take it not as in depth, but I want to take it a different place. I was kind of thinking back to movies of my childhood that I liked and things like that, and then the whole seeing the dead kind of thing that's going on with this.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the film Flatliners?
Yes.
Oh,
I've seen that one.
Okay.
I got that reference.
Okay. Thank you, Cap. The new or the old one?
Think the new one? No. I think the old one. I think
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, the old one. Yeah.
Okay, Keith Sutherland. Several of them. Sorry, I hit the mic here. Basically, maybe it's a testing group for a drug, a different strand, or maybe it's just people that found that this marijuana that grows in this weird place, which you could have it be a graveyard, or former graveyard that the headstones were moved but the bodies weren't, or whatnot. But when you smoke, you see the dead.
Yeah. You see like the either the recent dead or like the dead of a loved one.
Yeah.
Or like the ghosts, the apparitions of a loved one.
Maybe even you're crossing over into the realm, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the further you go, the more bloodborne kind of like the world of the dead. I mean, it can even be cult. A cult.
You start
gamer.
seeing more the creepy like ghost world, like the layer, the ghost layer of the world. Like you start kind of like the Upside Down from Stranger Things.
Yeah, and then
you start kind of seeing more of that side of the world, and like then we're getting that like from beyond aspect where you look into the other side, and the other side starts looking back at you.
Mm-hmm. And like that could be your game. I mean, at some point you're gonna be in that world, and maybe your ghost Virgils that you have are, maybe if there's multiple ones, maybe try to help you out of it or whatnot. But you're trapped in this world, and you got to get back out.
Yeah, I would love to see like a more exploration of where Ted is going, or where like that apparition is going, and what's happening to them as well. Because like there's clearly something going on that we're just not seeing.
Yeah.
And like that's not entirely through like the fault of the story. It's just something that we're seeing that as like, I kind of want to see more of that. Kind of element that I feel like may either like wasn't explored properly in the story, or just like they didn't think of it. They didn't think of that kind of like what's happening with Ted or this Ted apparition. So
yeah, which was to believe that Ted may not even really exist.
Yeah, it's just like the Jiminy Cricket conscience.
We're hitting on so many good things that one could do with this. I mean, even if we went back to the original vampire idea or whatnot, like, and this is a sad truth, coming from somebody who has had family and friends that have fell to addiction and whatnot. Like, the people you hang out with when you start going down these paths, like, drastically change to the point that the only people that are going to fool with you are other people that are kind of in that world.
Yeah.
And you've got that, you can hit upon that with these stories to where if you're having a cult and whatnot, it kind of functions like that. Like, they become isolated from everyone. And yeah. So I don't know exactly where I can go with that, but I'm just saying that there's
No,
definitely a parallel between, like, how things really happen
yeah,
and
no,
whatnot.
I get what exactly. I think I get exactly what you're saying. Whereas, like, the cult is sort of a commentary or an analog to
Yeah.
the circle of people that you tend to, like, when the term, like, you've fallen on the wrong side of the tracks, or like you've fallen in with the wrong crowd, like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, where like you're gravitating to people that are dealers or like other druggies that are on the same boat as you, and that isolates you from people that you did know or you loved, and like your family members and stuff like that, like your old family and friends and stuff.
Yeah. And
Because,
there's,
like, as long as you're high with those people, like, it's all like perfect and good. But then, like, sometimes if the drugs aren't flowing as well, like, or like if you guys are coming off a bad hit or something, that's when some of the, like, you start seeing some of the darker stuff of that, or the truth starts kind of coming out of their nature and such. And I feel like a lot of that does. I feel like stories with cults do tend to, like, use the cult as almost like an allegory for that kind of thing, or like
yeah.
vice versa.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
There's places over here. A little side note here. They're around the world. I don't know exactly the exact name of it, but to combat problems with drugs, such as, like, dirty needles and things like that. There's places that are available in different states here. They're not very widespread because we unfortunately treat addiction but with shame instead of, like, providing a safe, so a structured place for people to overcome this. But there's places here where you can go and there's clean needles and you can sit there and go in a little partitioned out place and get your fix and whatnot, and then go about your day, and there's no stigma and all that. It's not like they're necessarily enabling you or anything like that. It's more of, if you're going to do this, at least do it with supervision, and if you need help getting away from it, this is also your avenue for it. And those places have a lot of positive success. Like, I honestly think and I saw this on John Oliver. He's a comedian, but he also has, like, a weekly news show on HBO. And he did go into detail about this, but like, there's been, I think, so far as of the recording of that, and these things have been around, there's been no overdosing deaths. And
Wow.
because, I mean, it's supervised
Yeah.
and all that, and there's people who can help you. And I know that I'm taking this on a tirade out of the gaming thing, but I do, feel the need to say that these people, uh, pushing them away is like enabling them and pushing them away can be two different things and stuff like that. And them being ostracized like a cult member would or anything like that leads them to further, give up hope and further just downward spiral on this.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like I just turned this into an after school special. I do apologize.
Much like how the story the story tried and failed at the beginning. No.
Mhm. It could have. It could have
Yeah.
totally did that, but
I did not expect, like, this deep of a dive into, like, drug use.
drug
But
use and education.
yeah. It's what I get for having somebody with your background. No, okay. I'm playing.
That's all good. I'm not offended, but I think it's something that, of course, I'm totally always wanting you to run Nice Black Agents for me to play in because I rarely played a game of Nice Black Agents, but I do think your vampire idea is the best thing that has come out of this here. And I mean, it's a very non-traditional vampire. And yeah, that would be, for somebody that wants to run that or run with that, I think it would be a nice different approach because Nice Black Agents you have the traditional vampire, you have the alien vampire, and then you have
and there's the toolkit to make your own, to make any kind of vampire or supernatural entity that's similar to a vampire.
Yeah.
That you want. So you might as well use that toolkit.
Yeah, indeed. And in your games, there's, like I said, we kind of did hit upon some big things here, and we're definitely, neither one of us are trivializing the horrors of this. We've just been kind of commenting on the author's approach and all that. But I mean, you can definitely make it. I feel like using parentheses here, allegorical, like the author did, and turn it into something where you're kind of putting a message across to the players about the world.
Using social commentary kind of element. You're using horror. Again, it stems from the genre is rife with it, and rightly so, and good for it. Is that it's like sci-fi? It's you're telling a story, a gripping story, with this lens to tell either a message or to tackle a topic that is otherwise sometimes harder to approach.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's kind of reflective of our society too. I mean, we get a lot of. I don't know if you've been exposed to the same podcasts and commentary. I used to listen to a lot of Ken Hite and Robin D. Laws's Ken and Robin Talk About Stuff podcasts.
Yeah.
But I mean, haunted houses are kind of really stemming. It's a poverty issue that you're dealing with because you bought a house and now you're stuck with it. It's almost representation of debt in and of itself, but a manifestation of it, maybe.
I have heard of that interpretation. I do like that interpretation on haunted houses.
So I hope we've given our listeners this a little. I don't know. I hope I haven't fucked up your tone for 420 episode.
It did start off kind of lighthearted, and then we kind of went into the darker thing. But I mean, I think that's kind of appropriate for that we're doing a 420 episode. This is still a creepypasta and a horror show. So
yeah.
But yeah, think that, man, I did not see this going down the rabbit hole to reference another drug-related sort of theme. Anyway, I did not see this going down a path of it's 420, and then suddenly we got serious for a while for a little bit there, and then we also got the creative juices going with the kitchen segment. So I definitely do want to try and run some stuff that we've talked about here, and I'm gonna have to listen to our conversation to try and get some of the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this is a good. This is my segue to putting us into final thoughts on what we actually on kind of a closing statements on what we thought of the story itself. Okay. So for me, I liked parts of it. Again, there's a core here that is really good. It's just the some of the dialogue or some of the writing, even for me, I'm sometimes often very lenient on certain things that people write because it's amateur writing on the internet. So or most of the time it's amateur writing. It's people who in their teens or maybe just a little bit older that are writing these stories and just throwing them out online for people to enjoy because they're trying to tell a spooky story. So for this one, I really do like the idea. I'm very intrigued by the old man and what exactly is going on there, and what is the drug doing to this guy and stuff like that. The zinger at the end, I like, but I would have liked a little bit more. And so because of that, I think I'm going to partially recommend this story. It's readable, it's enjoyable for the most part. It's just as long as you know that going in that there's going to be some really cheesy I know drug lingo. Hello, fellow teens. Like
Yeah,
that
really.
kind of like it does kind of feel like that in certain spots, but there are some spots that like as it goes that I really kind of enjoyed the characterization of Jake and the old man. So I can't personally, I can't fault it for like too much of that kind of stuff because I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll partially recommend this story. So Adam.
You know, first off, I think that it was enjoyable, like not amazing or anything like that. There's parts of it that we start off in the past and then all of a sudden we're in the present and oh, well, Ted's dead and all that. And there's a lot of things that I feel like it's for the story to be complete would be we're missing something. I honestly think that it's a travesty that you just had the man randomly die in a car wreck and not become so kind of brought up in his addiction. Maybe
Yeah.
at the cause of the old man should have took him out in the beginning. Like they became disconnected and whatnot. I feel like that's missing it. I think the impetus of him being somebody trying to get a fix and everything else being forsaken was a weakness of this, and it just was almost comical kind of approach to addiction with this. I feel like if his friend had died and then he went to investigate that and then he found some of the man's stash and then maybe if that led him to,
The old man himself.
the old man himself and maybe even signing the deal, kind of checking it out and then, didn't become aware of it. Like the ending was cool and all, don't get me wrong, but why couldn't that stuff have happened to Ted? And then you're cleaning up after Ted.
Yeah, it does seem a little not like we're not entirely over, but the it does seem like Jake doesn't mourn Ted as much. Like there's not a lot of that in the story. Like there's like I think one line or something where he's like ripping a bong for Ted, like in honor of Ted, but like he knew what he was really just dealing with his addiction and stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, people do go to drugs and stuff like that to try and forget or to try and like
Hmm.
as a crutch for mourning and such as well.
Yeah.
So like I feel like there's definitely a missed opportunity, like you were kind of bringing up, of like kind of using that for like using that setup that the story's already has there, and just not going full on with it.
Yeah.
And again, like
Eh,
maybe the old man was Ted's dealer. Like that's why Ted always had because Ted always had always had um had a hookup.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the
And,
old man.
and it takes the deal to where he sinks his claws in. Anybody can smoke the shit. It's not a big deal. But if
Mhm.
you make the deal with him, then it's a little bit different. But yeah, I
And
mean, go ahead.
oh no, I think I was gonna. I think like you were saying just moments ago, like maybe the car accident itself was the final um the final payment on the drugs. Like maybe Ted was actually not to not to trivialize like a very real like terrible thing that does happen sometimes with people under the influence.
Hmm.
Like not to take away from that, and that like and but like maybe in because this is a work of fiction, like maybe that was like the final, like the debt to be paid for like all the times that like Ted had a hookup like for the drugs and such.
Yeah. Ted refusing to eat his friend. He was in the car with him or something like that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's just so much that a missed opportunity was such a fertile kind of environment that this could have went through. So, I mean, I would honestly, for people, I would put it like, if you don't have anything else to read, I'd put it like, 5 out of 10 kind of set up like that. Like it's a good one to kind of start on, read. And then if you wanted to kind of use that as inspiration on where to kind of jump off from yourself. Like I think that the right person could follow this up with a different rendition of it and make it like a really awesome story. So it's a decent frame.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that will do it for tonight. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also talk to us on Twitter. I'm at Review Cultist on Twitter. Adam, where can they find you on Twitter or otherwise?
Okay, well, I run a little actual play podcast called The Role Playing Exchange. That's why I go by RPX Adam. And basically, you can find us at www.roleplayingexchange.com. We are also on Twitter at RP Exchange, and we're on Facebook, which is facebook.com/the Role Playing Exchange.
All right. And if you'd like to send us emails, you can go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can leave us other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. Sorry. It's grown on us in recent months, that slogan.
That was new. I haven't been here since that was there.
Yeah. We have Gamer in Yellow, thank for that catchphrase. And if you'd like to help support our show, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. For our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like staring into the void or just screaming into the void and not hearing anything back. And without without the stories that you write and share online, we really wouldn't have much of a show. We wouldn't have this show that we've been like this conversation we've had for hours almost, because we'd have nothing to talk about. Like we wouldn't have something to jump off on, or pick apart and speculate. So because of that, thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I'm Adam.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. 420 blaze it!
Let's roll it up.